I've made this video to show you guys that the vast majority of years of time that I put into music just failed miserably. I had to try a bunch of different things in order to find the one that fits me and the one that works. EdTalenti on the beat. What's up everyone, this is EdTalenti. How are you guys doing? So, as you can see, I'm not in the studio. The studio is being renovated right now. We had to break down pieces of the wall. We're rebuilding it. Should be really fun, but we have to paint, we have to change the flooring, new furniture coming in. I'm going all out. This is gonna be crazy, but it will take a couple of weeks. So I'm upstairs right now. This is kind of like my dad's office, music room, whatever. Today, since we can't use the studio, I'm gonna take you guys on a little bit of a different journey. So the idea for this video sparked a couple days ago when I posted a tweet that said every single one of your idols sucked at what they did at some point. I think that it's so important to remember that that person started from zero. They sucked at what they were doing, they learned how to do it, and then they tried to apply it. They failed multiple times, and eventually they found something that worked for them and found their own success, whatever that means for that person. So for today, I wanted to take you guys on a little journey back in time to tell you about some of the L's that I had to take in order to be where I am now. Let's get into it. The first chapter of our story starts around 2008. I was a young 16-year-old EdTalenti. I was going through high school. I hated every second of it, and my parents had the brilliant idea of buying me a drum set. That was my first introduction to music, even though my family has always been kind of musical, but personally, that was the first instrument that was mine. I put my time into it. I dedicated a lot of effort into trying to get better. I fell in love with it, and I decided that all I wanted to do for the rest of my life was play drums. Just like every other 16-year-old, I wanted to be a mega super rock star. I wanted to be the biggest drummer in the world. I wanted to have a band and tour the world and do all these crazy things. So I somehow convinced my parents to send me across the world to go to music school, music college in LA. That was a big decision, but they supported me. I graduated in 2013, and I have an associate's degree in drums and percussions. So at that point, my main focus really was to be in a band. And I started a band called Perceptionist. We did a bunch of things. We did a music video, we did an album, played a bunch of shows. We started to get a little bit of buzz. So for a good year and a half, 2 years there, I really thought that Perceptionist was gonna be just my full-time career. It was gonna be the one thing where we were starting to make a little bit of money. We did a successful Kickstarter, we did the album, we were planning on touring, all this great stuff, and then the band fell apart. So that was the first big L where I was like, damn, I really thought this was gonna work out. It didn't. What do I do now? And this is where we get into the second chapter of the story, which is the session player musician phase. So at this point in time, I was in LA, I had my music degree. The band thing failed, but I accumulated a bunch of experience in studio and like doing shows and stuff like that. I wanted to go the drummer route. I wanted to play for artists, eventually maybe get on like a bigger tour and start like really touring, being a session player. Now, I don't know if anybody out there is familiar with this, but the session player life in LA is brutal. There's a lot of competition, a lot of auditions, like huge auditions, like 100 drummers all competing for the same gig. Only one guy gets it, and there's a lot of just like, it's just intense. Pair that with the fact that there are a ton of music schools, so there's a lot of musicians, and they're all very, very good. Even with those conditions though, I was able to make a living. I was able to put together my circle of like working musicians, do like weddings and events and parties and things like that, and just make enough to like live off of that. I wasn't rich, I wasn't successful, but I still had this dream of kind of like reaching the upper level of like touring and like touring like arenas or something someday. The reality of it though is that 6-7 months, 1 year went by, and I was still kind of in that middle phase, making a living but having a hard time, not really seeing any growth. So I started going on Craigslist. This is the beginning of chapter 3, my composer phase. So I hadn't really abandoned the session player thing. I was still trying to do it. I was still doing my gigs and my studio sessions and like just trying to push on that front. But at the same time, I was like, I need a plan B. I need something else that I can at least try to get into and try to like, I don't know, just find another route, because this is not really working. I'm not gonna lie, this third chapter is one of the darkest ones because I was just feeling so lost and depressed, and like I was in my early 20s. I had moved all the way to LA. I had abandoned my family to pursue this dream, and it wasn't working out, and I had spent all this money doing this, my parents' money and then some of mine when I had it. It was a really frustrating phase, and it was the phase where I got the closest to giving up on music. For a couple times there, I was like that close to just taking a job at Starbucks and just being this. But I didn't do that, and I stuck with the Craigslist thing, and I still have some of the emails. Dude, they were desperate. I was reaching out to anybody, even like things that I had no business being into, like music licensing and things like that. I knew nothing about that, but I was still trying to apply to every single music job in the LA County. I just wanted a job. So it was a random day, just like any other day. I went on my Craigslist thing, I started looking for all the music gigs, and I found one that said composer assistant. I had applied to a million of these already, but I had my email pre-made with like all the links, all my things. Copy, paste, send. I was so used at this point to getting no response to any of my emails, like 90% of them, that I just didn't even expect anything. So I kept doing my thing, 1 day, 2 days, 3 days. After 4 days, I got an email response back from that one composer assistant job. Now at this point, being on Craigslist and everything, I didn't know what kind of job it was. I didn't even know if it was a company or an individual. I knew nothing about this, but I was like, hell yeah, let's do it. So it was the day before the interview when I asked a detail about like what time it was, because they didn't really specify it, that they responded with the official email. And I realized that this was a composer's assistant job for a guy called Magnus Fines. Now, if you look at Magnus Fines, he's a composer. He's got his own Wikipedia page. He's Ray Fiennes' brother, Voldemort, the actor that plays Voldemort. That's his brother. He's like a guy with a lot of success behind, and he was looking for a composer assistant on Craigslist. I was very confused by the whole thing, but it seemed legit. It seemed like it was actually him. So I went to the interview. I showed up, and there he was. He opened the door for me. That was his house where he has his studio. We did the interview. It was like really chill. He asked about some of my experience. He said this was a sort of unpaid job, at least at the beginning. It was kind of like an internship, but I was going to learn everything about the business. So I said yes. He hired me and I started. Now, if there's one job that truly changed the course of my life, that's the one. I learned so many things working next to this guy. I learned a lot about like music licensing, about like making music, making cues for like TV shows, which is the bulk of what we were doing. I learned a lot about like working with artists, because he worked with Shakira. He was the music director for a world tour. I learned a lot about just everything, things that I had no idea how they worked. I didn't make a lot of money with this. I was still doing the drummer thing, but at the same time, it really opened up this whole music production, music like just making world that I had never really looked into. So anyway, I kept doing this job for about 1.5 years, and one day I got an email that brought me into chapter 4 of the story. This was an email coming from a family friend of mine that was opening a music school in my hometown, Bologna. He kind of knew that I was having a hard time in LA, so he just kind of threw it out there. If I needed a job, they were looking for a drum teacher. Let's do it. Let's move to Italy. Let's take a chance, try it out, take the job, and let's see where that takes us. And so we did. We moved back to Italy. I got the job as a drum teacher, and I was able to sustain myself and my wife pretty comfortably, and also I was able to have a lot of free time. Now, thanks to the experience that I'd accumulated in LA, like working for Magnus, I was able to just kind of like start producing music, and I started getting into hip-hop and trap and like just producing beats and just that whole world. And that moment right there takes us into chapter 5, the last chapter we're going to talk about today, and the only chapter that I consider a win. Real quick, before we get into the next chapter of the story, there are only like 100 copies left of the Ferrocymatic drum sample pack. I'm out of breath. This is honestly the best sample pack that they've ever put out, in my opinion. It's huge. There are so many sounds. It's totally worth the price, and there's only a few left available. In fact, if they're sold out by the time this video is out, I'm going to also leave a couple of their free packs so you guys can just go download them and enjoy them. Either way, actually, even if it's still out, you can still go download the free packs and just enjoy those. Oh yeah, this is what the studio looks like now, by the way. Tomorrow we're going to start painting, and then the day after we're going to do the flooring, and then new furniture is coming, and then one day we'll be done. All right, back to the video. So like I said, I was working in the afternoon, making beats in the morning. I was starting to get better, and I decided to start posting my stuff online. I tried making some YouTube videos. They failed miserably. I tried posting on Instagram, and it failed miserably. And I just kept trying different things. I didn't really know what I wanted to do with my music. There was one day specifically I got really frustrated. The studio looked like shit, and I didn't know where to place the camera to make it look good. And I was like, you know what? I'm here in Italy. One of the perks of being here is that it's pretty outside. I'm gonna go outside, shoot the beat outside, like make the little video and post it on Instagram. That post got a little bit of views, a little bit of comments on Instagram, and it just showed me, it just gave me hope that that was a path that I could even try to pursue. Now keep in mind, at this point I had a lot of experience behind me, a lot of losses, but also a lot of things that I had learned. I knew a little bit of video editing from my band phase. I knew a little bit of photo editing from my band band phase. I knew a little bit of music composition and production from the job as a composer's assistant. I knew a little bit of like marketing and self-promotion from when I had to promote my band. I had learned all these random skills, and this is the point where they kind of all came together. If I didn't take all those losses, if I didn't go through all those failed chapters, I would lack the instruments to do what I was trying to do. I've made this video to show you guys that the vast majority of years of time that I put into music just failed miserably. I had to try a bunch of different things in order to find the one that fits me and the one that works. The moral of the story, if there even is one, is to keep trying. If you try enough things, one of them is going to work. It just has to. Alright, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, don't forget to subscribe button, notification bell, hit the thumbs up. I hope the studio is going to be ready soon so I can go back to just making regular videos. But in the meantime, let me know if there's anything that you want to see, anything that you want to talk about. And either way, I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.